Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Nerdy Niche, the podcast about all the nerdy stuff that you love. On today's episode, we are back down to just our basic crew, just me and my lovely co-host, Mr. Edison Myers. How you doing today, Ed?
We're coming back in style.
Yeah.
Just the two of us. We can make it if we try.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started the traditional way. What's the nerdiest thing you did this week?
Nerdiest thing I did this week, it's been very video gamey for me. I just finished Elden Ring. Super hard game, super fun, really good. I put over 100 hours into it. And now I've been playing a much easier game, but very fun, very humorous. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
Yeah, that one looked like a lot of fun. That's like the only game so far that like makes me wish I had an Xbox or something.
Yeah, PlayStation for me, but yeah. It's really fun. It's just goofy, and it's Borderlands, which I already liked because of all the humor, and it's just a stupid looter shooter that makes fun of itself. And
yeah, so it is by the same team that did Borderlands, right?
Yeah, and it's very much Borderlands. It has Borderlands characters and everything, but it's a character from Borderlands, Tiny Tina, who is running a essentially D&D campaign. It's Boulders and Badasses. What it's called. I believe. And you make a character that's very much like a D&D character, but you can use guns.
So it has more like a creative character feature to it.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing that I think Borderlands could have used a little bit more of.
Yeah, you make a character, and they have 6 class options that you can play that feel like D&D. Like there's a Spore Warden, which is kind of like your druid. There's like a very much warlocky one. There's like a wizard one. There's a berserker is the barbarian.
Yeah.
There's like a fighter type. There's a rogue, the Stabbomancer. And it's also cool because at a point in the story you get to multi-class. And you get to choose whichever other class to add to yours. Because instead of having the skill trees, you have the one skill tree, and then whatever subclass you do is the other skill tree that you get. So it's kind of a cool way that they did it. And then it has tons of humor and everything. At one point you get handed C4, like she's like talking and she's handing it to you, and she's like, use the C4 to blow up these catapults. And one of the other characters is like, I thought we were doing like a fantasy world. I know you like to blow things up, but like it's supposed to be fantasy. And she's like, oh, you're right. Hold on a second. This fantasy 4.
You can magically blow things up.
Yeah. It's stupid and fun, and I enjoy it. So
yeah, it sounds like a lot of fun. One day I might have to be able to give it a try.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, the nerdiest thing I did this week, I think, was I actually really nerded out for Sonic 2. We went and saw that last week. It's like last Tuesday. So that's the nerdiest thing I did last week. But yeah, Sonic 2 is really good. If you guys get a chance to check it out, it's packs a whole lot more like Sonic flavoring in there. You know, you got your Tails and your Knuckles, you know.
That was actually the reason I wanted to see that. I haven't seen the first one either. I still need to. I was living in the middle of nowhere when the first one came out. I just didn't really have a chance to.
You mean the one movie theater in that town? It wasn't showing Sonic?
They did show it, I think. Actually, no, I think that came out. Did that one come out like right when COVID started?
It was close to that, yeah.
I think that was the last movie that was scheduled to go, and then the theater got shut down before that movie.
Yeah, I think most people got to see it before that, but they didn't, make it all the way out there for a little while, and then
it always took longer for our theater to get the one movie for the week.
I really liked it though, and the first one was a really good like introduction to Sonic in a way that wasn't like so packed with like the lore of Sonic.
Okay.
But this one brings in a lot more of the what you would expect from a Sonic movie.
Okay.
But I think that sort of slow introduction to it made it a lot more palatable for people.
Okay, yeah, that's cool. And Knuckles was always my favorite Sonic character for whatever reason.
And he's voiced by Idris Elba too.
Is he really?
Yeah.
So he's just badass.
Yeah. So it's just it just sounds badass in the very beginning. Like Idris Elba could be telling me like that his back hurts, and I would still be like, that's badass.
He's just cool.
It has a great voice. Great voice.
You heard it here, everybody. Nerdy Niche is very much behind Idris Elba.
Yeah.
He's fucking awesome.
Yeah, he's great. I mean, a lot of people have talked about him like, becoming the new James Bond or something like that. We were just before we filmed this episode, we were actually watching Doctor Who, and I was thinking like, what would they do with the next Doctor? They should have Idris Elba be the next Doctor Who.
He'd almost be too cool to be the Doctor.
That's fair.
Almost like. I love Doctor Who, but like, just
it's supposed to be a little bit, nerdy and.
Well, it's kind of like when Edward Norton was the Hulk.
Yeah.
Like he was kind of too badass to be Bruce Banner, if that makes sense.
Or like going back to a recent episode of the show that we did, Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man too.
Yeah.
A little too cool to be Peter Parker.
He was too cool. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, so today we are going to do an episode that we've titled the Top 10 Anime Protagonists. We're just going to break down our top 10 lists of characters that we think are really cool in animes that we've watched and that we think really bring something different to the table as far as animes are concerned. We are using the term protagonist a little bit loosely, at least I know I did on my list, where it's not always the main character. It's not always the face of the franchise, but it is usually a hero that is meant to be at the forefront of the series.
Yeah, kind of in the main group of the main protagonist.
Right. So not directly the main protagonist. I think most of our lists are probably the main person, but I think we wander off that a little bit.
Yeah. For the most part, mine are the main character, but some of them went off. Sadly, you won't really see Naruto, I don't think, on this list because the main group isn't the best group. That show. Yeah,
I actually have a really hard time with Naruto. I mean, I've gotten really into anime in the last couple of years, but because I watch it dubbed, I think I'm sure the dubbed actress, the voice actress, does a great job for what she's told to do and what she's given, but I just can't deal with it.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, well, let's go ahead and dive in. So, did you bring an honorable mention with you?
Not this time, because originally we were planning on doing top 5 lists and we're going to have Travis here with us, but he wasn't able to make it tonight. So I just kind of added my honorable mention into my
top
list.
10.
Yeah.
So I did actually still have one honorable mention, and so the reason that I kind of kept him off the list is because I don't think he would make my top 10, but it's kind of a fun mention, and that's Joey Wheeler from Yu-Gi-Oh.
Okay.
I've always his little the way his accent works, like that Brooklyn accent that he has in just the weird Japanese style show of Yu-Gi-Oh.
Mm-hmm.
It's always so like iconic, and he was always just a really cool character that for the most part wasn't really good at what he was doing, but he just was so positive through all of it.
Okay, yeah.
A lot of the characters we're going to talk about today, I think, have really positive attitudes, but it's partly because they succeed a lot.
Yeah.
And I think Joey, basically just had to take this backseat to Egyptian god Yugi, and and was never sour grapes about it.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. That's one I didn't think to add.
I think a lot of people. I kept up the list, I think, because a lot of people, I think like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, the ones that kind of become more popular in the States, kind of lose a little bit of their anime cred.
Yeah, they kind of do. And I loved Yu-Gi-Oh when it first was coming out. Like I remember watching it. And I bought the cards and I tried to play it the exact way that it is in the TV show, which is not the way that the game works. When I went to a tournament and found that out, they're really nice about it.
You mean like monsters don't like project out the cards?
Well, no, like the rules are different.
Yeah. So one day we should do an episode too about some various card games and kind of the way that they've evolved. But Yu-Gi-Oh! As a game can be fun, but it is very convoluted, and they've had to change the rules quite a few times over the years.
Yeah.
Which I think any game that lives as long as that one has, can run into those mistakes pretty easily.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to translate from Japanese to English all the time.
For sure. That's a great honorable mention, and I actually did just think of one that I should do on here, since Travis isn't here, and he probably would have mentioned somebody from this. Both me and Jeremy aren't big Dragon Ball Z people.
Yep.
We just really didn't get into that one for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
I like Dragon Ball more than like the rest of it.
Agreed. I actually really like Dragon Ball.
So I'm gonna go with Goku here as an honorable mention, which I'm sure people will scream at me.
Scream at us about,
but at least he's mentioned here because otherwise he wouldn't be.
Right.
Goku is a great character. He often gets kind of compared to he's kind of the anime Superman.
Yeah, very much so.
He really like brought Shonen or Dragon Ball as a whole, kind of brought the Shonen style anime kind of more to the U.S.
Oh yeah, I mean,
at least the mainstream.
It certainly was one of the is probably still the biggest shonen anime to leave Japan and make it big around the world.
Yeah, and I'm saying shonen because there's definitely been anime movies that really kicked it off more than Dragon Ball did. But Goku's great character, just kind of like fun-loving, wants to eat all the time.
I think a lot of time to his own detriment too, and the detriment to those around him.
Yep.
He kind of really has tunnel vision for joy and fun, and kind of forgets that like he's in some serious situations sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it helps that he's died a couple times and he's come back, so it's fine.
Yeah. I think that quality was really endearing in Dragon Ball.
Yeah. Because
he was a kid.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot more room for that.
For sure.
I think in Dragon Ball Z, he's supposed to be like a, this world savior and a father, and he just like never. I mean, I guess in a way, it's a good thing because it never like shows on him.
Mm-hmm.
But I want some character progression, and I don't think I've seen enough of that from him.
Well, and he's a very important character, and he needed to be mentioned here because a lot of the characters that we're going to be talking about later, I think, in some ways, are kind of modeled after him.
Oh, I would agree. A lot of them, yeah.
So he's our honorable mention here. So, hey, yell at us on the internet.
There you go. There you go. I do want to say I actually do have a Dragon Ball character.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and crack into our top 10. What do you have for number 10?
My number 10 is from Death Note. The main character in Death Note, I would argue, is actually the antagonist of the whole thing. Mm-hmm. It's watching a person become a true awful villain. Mm-hmm. So I'm putting the opposite of him on here, which is the character L. Who's a very interesting character, and it, in my opinion, kind of made Death Note for me. I don't know if you've watched Death Note.
So actually I haven't gotten a chance to, because most of the anime I watch is with my son, and so that's definitely not one to be watching with the kids.
It's very
so for people who may have not seen it, including myself, explain just a little bit about Death Note and what this character is in it.
Yeah. So the story of Death Note is there's essentially these demons that live kind of outside of our world that can like poke and prod at people and kind of get them to do things, and then they have these death notes. Then essentially, if humans caused enough harm to be able to kill someone, they'd kind of help facilitate that. They're kind of like Grim Reapers in a way. Mm-hmm. And one of them is just bored essentially and puts his death note into the world to see if somebody finds it and uses it. And the main character, his name is Light, he gets it, and at the beginning of it, he's like, once he figures out and he talks to the demon and everything, figures out what he can do with it, that if you write a name in it, they die, and you can write how they die. Mm-hmm. If you just write their name, they die of a heart attack. And at first, he's like, I'm just going to use this to kill bad people. So he's like researching bad people essentially and like killing them off.
Yeah.
And L is a younger person as well, that is incredibly intelligent and is essentially hired as a detective to try to figure out why all these people are dying.
Right.
And Light and L end up meeting throughout, and kind of become friends. And Elle very quickly realizes that the only thing that this person is getting is their name, so he doesn't give his name up for like the longest time. And so it's this big cat and mouse game, and Hal's just odd. Like he's like this kind of homebody inside, like he's super pale and like always kind of dirty clothes and stuff, and he just kind of like sits and he's always eating.
Sort of a Constantine style character,
kind of in a way, more nice and wholesome than Constantine.
That's not hard. It's not hard to do.
But very interesting character, and definitely I would say the more like protagonist at that.
So kind of what I'm understanding is that he's kind of the character bringing in the concept of like, do bad people still deserve justice?
Yeah, kind of. He's the one that's trying to. Yeah. People are dying, and yeah, they might have committed bad things, but pretty quickly in the anime too, he kind of shifts, and he like when people are doing him wrong, he kills them off too.
Right,
the main character. Mm-hmm. Like it's kind of like,
so it starts out with like really bad people, and then it just kind of goes to like, well, I don't really like you. So.
Yeah, it's kind of like if you've watched Breaking Bad, it's kind of the anime version of Breaking Bad, where you're watching a genuinely good person to begin with turning evil.
Right. That makes sense. I'll definitely have to give that one a shot. I think it's very popular for most people.
Yeah, it's good. A lot of people really like that one.
So my number 10 is Maple from Bofari. I didn't want to get hurt, so I put all my points into defense. It's a very long title, and we talked about it a little bit already in one of our Isekai episodes.
Which is actually where you started watching it.
Yes, because I was very interested, and I basically watched the whole thing really quickly because it's very funny.
And it's short, and it's great. Yeah, I really enjoyed that one.
Yeah, so the reason I picked her is because a lot of these other characters that we'll talk about, while they have like sort of lighthearted, innocent feel to them, she does it in a very different way, in that she doesn't even realize or even want to be as powerful as she is.
Okay.
A lot of these other guys on the list that we'll talk about, and girls, they want the power because they want, they want to become the best at something, or they want, I don't think even once Maple mentions wanting to be the best at the game that she's in.
Yeah, she just wants to play the game.
Yeah, and she's just having fun.
Yeah.
But she so for everybody who doesn't know, the story is about this girl who doesn't play video games, but she's talked in by her friend to playing this MMORPG. And she's never played games before, so when she is creating her character, she basically just doesn't want her character to get hurt, so she puts all of her stat points into defense, and literally nothing else. Just all points right into defense. And then this kind of creates a glitch because the game designers didn't count on someone doing that, and she basically just can't be hurt. And so she slowly develops these skills that just are insane.
She just stumbles through like finding the most broken ways of doing things. Like she gets this really powerful like poison power early on because you essentially build up resistances from not like dying but taking damage from something, and she can just take endless amounts of damage. So she
eventually becomes immune to poison.
And her friend that got her into it is also basically like a pro gamer.
Yeah, and so but she like constantly outdoes everyone around her, and in the most like innocent way possible. Mm-hmm. She's always like, "Look what we can do, guys! Look at this."
I also like it when she meets the twin girls.
Yeah.
That did the opposite of her.
Put all their points in the
attack. So
I like when they just like set their hands down and break the table. It's like, it's a table. Let's go ahead and hit up your number 9, sir.
Yeah. So my number 9 is a character from a newer anime that I think within a few years on a list like this would probably be higher up the list, but there's only like one season that I could personally find. I don't know if there's more out there, but it's Jujutsu Kaisen.
Yeah, a lot of people have been telling me to watch this one.
Yeah, it's really good, and it's kind of what I'm understanding. It's being compared to, it's like our new Bleach. Mm-hmm. It's also kind of similar to that in a way, but instead of having the what were they called in Bleach? The like soul spirit things. Instead, they're called curses, and they're still similar kind of to that, but they're basically when like horrible emotions come into an object or something, it makes a curse, which then has its own kind of like spirit and everything to it. And it's basically this organization that's trying to stop them.
Mm-hmm.
And you can gain curses by like eating objects.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this really powerful one that gets eaten by the main character. It's a finger.
Mm-hmm.
And basically he breaks a bunch of taboos with it and is sentenced to be killed. But he's tasked with getting all of the fingers and eating them so that no one else
can have
that power, and then they were going to kill the thing inside of it. But he's not the character that I put on the list, so I'm probably going to butcher a lot of names on this. Nobara Kujizaki. She is the female character in his group, and she kind of uses like voodoo doll kind of things, and it like puts like big nails and things into everything. So one thing that Jujutsu Kaisen is really getting known for is that the female characters in it are actually have some of the best like story development and like character behind them.
Like a little bit more fleshed out as characters.
Yeah. And where the male characters are not really like the main character, his goal, like his pirate king or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
is I want to die a good death,
Mm-hmm.
which is just kind of like,
Okay.
But it's really interesting. Like with that show, they're just doing a really good job with kind of showing that female characters can be really badass, really compelling, and you actually can root for them more than the male characters. Where some animes do kind of just, they're like, oh, they're a girl,
Mm-hmm.
they're useless,
Yeah.
which is not okay.
No. I mean, I think that's changed a lot in the last 10 years or so. But.
Yeah. But that one is really kind of helping with that. So I wanted to make sure that got on the list. It's still pretty new, and I don't know a ton about it. I haven't read anything, or like I just kind of watched it over once.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoyed it, but yeah, I just wanted to kind of put that on there. So what's your number 9?
Cool. My number 9 is actually a Pokemon character. Surprise, surprise.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Brock from Pokemon.
Brock's a great character.
I think Brock, to me, is the quintessential the quintessential perv stereotype in Pokemon.
There's a whole, yeah.
And anime. I mean, that's a whole. Pretty much any anime, you can find at least one character who behaves that way.
Yeah, there's always kind of a perfect character.
Every once in a while, it's even kind of gender bent too.
Yeah.
So sometimes there's a female character that is kind of a little bit boy crazy or something like that,
or just kind of pervy like darkness.
Yeah, like darkness. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of when I talk about that.
But all the characters are now.
Yeah. But her and me a little bit more so.
Yeah.
But it's also kind of cool because over the years, Pokemon's been on. I mean, arguably as long or longer than just about any anime in the world.
Yeah.
And he's kind of popped back in and out throughout the history of the show.
Okay. Yeah.
And to see him going from being like kind of the fun, pervy character that he was always really wise at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
He just kind of lost his mind when it came to women.
Yeah.
But he was always really wise and was like definitely the intelligence behind the early years of Ash.
Yeah.
And he was always kind of the exposition too, explaining to kids like this is how Pokemon gyms work. This is how those things work. And so obviously a big influence on me and you as kids.
For sure. Yeah.
And I always love the voice. Brock's voice is just great.
Yeah, Brock was a great character, and like most people with Pokemon, like I watched the first couple seasons when I was a kid, and I didn't continue. You having a kid.
Yeah, I've seen every episode of Pokemon they've ever put out, and so Brock Sims will come back in and out through the years. He in the Sun and Moon series, the previous one to the one that's on Netflix now, Pokemon Journeys, he got married and has his own family now, and has actually progressed and grown a lot, and isn't like weird and pervy with women anymore. And it's kind of a fun like character progression, as I also grew up too.
Yeah. Sorry, that made me really think. So is Ash just a permanent 10-year-old?
So
since the rest of the characters are progressing.
So have you heard those theories about that?
I've heard the theory about
yeah,
that he made a wish to like
to basically to stay on his Pokemon journey forever, and what that kind of looks like is being 10 forever.
That sucks.
Yeah. although arguably he's looked older in certain series of the anime.
Yeah, but they usually say he's around like 10 or
11, yeah, 10 or 11, yeah. But he arguably, like the based on the animation style, will look older, and they'll kind of bring him back a little bit. But I do think Pokemon Journeys is coming up on the end of Ash Ketchum as well.
Wow.
Yeah. What is your number 8, sir?
So my number 8 is from another series that has kind of gone on forever. So from One Piece, I'm going with Roronoa Zoro, which is kind of the right hand to Luffy. And the reason why I put him on the list, so anybody that hasn't dove into One Piece, which is a very long show. Over 1,000 episodes now.
Yeah.
He is the swordsman on the Straw Hat Pirate crew, and he's the first member that Luffy added to his crew. At the very beginning of the show, Luffy's like, I'm going to be the Pirate King, and I need a boat and a crew, and he finds this cool guy that is basically being punished for helping somebody, but he's honorable, and he was actually a pirate hunter originally. He was known as Roronoa Zoro, the pirate hunter, and
always uses 3 swords.
Yep, he uses the 3-sword style.
The 2 in his hands, the 1 in his mouth.
Yeah, super just badass character. And one reason that he made my list specifically because the whole Straw Hat crew is amazing, but he's just such a cool friend because no matter what's going on, he has total confidence that even if Luffy's being a dumbass, and he'll admit that he's a dumbass, he knows that Luffy will come around and show up when he needs to, right, and that he'll solve everything. And he has total respect for his captain, and he's just such a good friend. And he's just a great character. He can be really, like, he's kind of the hard ass in the group, but he can also be really funny sometimes. And I love the fact that him and Luffy both tend to get brought out. It's him, Luffy, and Sanji tend to get like sent off in different directions because they're kind of like the Trinity, like the DC Trinity, like
your Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman.
They often get called monsters from the rest of the crew because they're just so powerful. So that there's always something that makes it so that they can't be there. His is usually he has no sense of direction, so he gets lost all the time. He just starts running in a direction and it's the wrong way.
I think he tends to get represented as much or almost more than Luffy sometimes in terms of the the product representation of One Piece, because I think he like has the pirate look.
He does
more than any of the other main characters.
Yeah, because he wears the like bandana and the like baggy pants.
Yeah, I mean Luffy just has like the straw hat and like the generic sort of red jacket.
Yeah,
and Sanji is in like a suit, right?
Yeah, he was like a waiter.
Yeah,
essentially.
Yeah, so none of the other characters really have like this is a pirate show kind of look to them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think he actually ends up representing One Piece as much, if not more, than Luffy does.
Yeah, and he's a great character.
I mean, who doesn't love someone attacking you with a sword in their mouth? All right.
And what's your number 8?
My number 8 is where my Dragon Ball character comes in. And that is literally the only character I could easily cosplay, Mr. Krillin.
That's fair. Yeah.
I love Krillin. So Krillin was actually one of the reasons I really loved Dragon Ball.
Yeah, for sure.
That whole, like, they started out as rivals, but they become friends. And I think he's always been a really good force, a good guiding force for Goku.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think he gets the credit he deserves for that.
Oh yeah,
I think and he's also like the only person in the show really that is completely human among this world of alien gods,
mm-hmm.
and he never backs down from any of them. He's also a really good representation of what a good father should be in anime.
Mm-hmm.
The complete opposite of Goku.
Yeah, fair.
I've just always loved Krillin. I think he's a great character to represent something that doesn't get seen a lot, and that's someone who will stand up to these people who have a lot of power when he has very little.
Yeah, he arguably, of what I've heard, has incredible power. He just can't ever hit. He just always misses.
I guess that's a theme of something that I like is people that keep failing but keep trying anyway.
You got to keep at it.
Yeah, and being a father, I really do appreciate the representation he has as a dad, because he's actually seems to care a lot about his family and his kids. And
yep.
And of course, I had to put him on the list because it's like the only thing I can easily cosplay at a Comic-Con. So
yeah, that's fair.
It's not a lot of bald characters in the world, is there?
Every now and then, not like main ones. There's always like bald characters,
but they're very like
yeah.
It's not a lot of main characters. Most main characters have like the long hair or like really.
I mean, you got Aang. You always got Aang.
That's basically it. Yeah, I have Aang, and then of course Tenzin that I could do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, I know it's not a Japanese anime, but we always love Avatar around here.
Yeah. It is an anime. It's essentially an anime.
It's an American anime. Yeah. I would argue it's as much an anime as a lot of other things. But
I mean, to be fair, anime is just animation.
Right. But it's come to take on a different meaning than that.
Yeah, it has. Yeah.
So let's go ahead with your number 7.
Number 7. Okay, so I'm gonna go ways back with this one. So Yu Yu Hakusho is much older anime at this point, and was actually one of the first ones that I ever really watched. I had heard a lot about Dragon Ball Z, and when I was growing up, and I started watching like Toonami and Adult Swim when they'd have like anime on there,
Mm-hmm.
and I'd watch Dragon Ball to try to see what the hype was, but I always liked Yu Yu Hakusho more, which always came on like right before or after it. And it's an anime about a guy that dies and becomes a spirit, and then becomes a spirit detective. But he's actually not the character I was going with, because he's just so like grumpy most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the one I went with is actually like his friend, Kazuma Kuwabara, which, so the characters, they use like spirit energy, and they can use it in different ways. The main character, I can't give his name at the moment, he uses a spirit gun, so he does like finger guns basically, and like it makes this blast come out and shoots it.
Yeah.
Kuwabara does an energy sword. And he basically puts his hands like this, and it makes an energy sword come out. And he has like he's like a redhead, and he has a pompadour.
Mm-hmm.
And he's kind of like the comic relief character of the group, but he's also like, he's such a great protagonist because he knows that he's less powerful than the rest of his group,
Mm-hmm.
but he's always tries his best, and he doesn't want to let them down. One of the biggest parts of that anime is this like demon tournament,
Right.
and like he just his main thing is he basically doesn't want to lose because he doesn't want to let his team down, and he's just becomes such kind of a white knight of the group, and he always wears white and everything, and he's just he's really like holds his own with the group, and he just doesn't want to let anybody down. He's just such a good friend. It just kind of, I don't know. He was just always a character I liked. Yeah. Even though he was kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, that's also a common theme I think throughout my list is someone who's like really a good friend to the people that they're around. I think that's important for endearing a anime hero to the audience.
For sure.
Because that's what we all want, right? Someone who's gonna have our back.
Yeah, definitely.
So my number 7 is a character that is a lot different than a lot of the things we just said. Okay. Have you seen the Castlevania anime?
Yes, I have.
Trevor Beaumont from Castlevania.
Trevor Beaumont, yep.
I like him a lot. I love that character. I just really like that anime as well. I think it's got a lot of really cool stuff going on in it. And Trevor's just really, really funny, especially in his interactions with Alucard. He's always really funny. And I kind of like that he is like the connection between the games and the anime.
Yeah, I like him a lot too. I like how he's kind of like, he's also like, if you watch the Witcher live action show, he's kind of like Geralt, where he's just like, fuck. like he's just like, oh god.
Yeah, and I also really like the way that he fights in the show. Yeah, like with the chain.
Yeah.
I have a thing for Wonder Woman. I think one of the things that I really like about like fighting styles is when someone uses like a chain or a rope or something like that to effectively involve combat.
Yeah.
That's always a really cool thing to visually see.
Yeah, and it takes a lot of skill, or like that weapon, like the Scorpion essentially uses the rope with the kunai on.
I really like his interactions and how funny he is, and the combat in that show is super top notch.
Yeah, it's really good.
It's very violent, very violent.
It is,
but there's a lot of really good fight scenes in that. What do you have for number 6?
So number 6 for me, I'm going on a friendship theme, I think, at this point. So this is another newer anime that you actually showed me that I really ended up liking, Eden Zero. So the main character in Eden Zero is Shiki Grambel, and he's my number 6 pick. Essentially, he was an orphan found on a planet by a robot that was the Demon King, because there's always a Demon King in anime. And he raised him as a son on this planet that was essentially a planet that is just a theme park. And it's run by robots, and nobody's been there for like 100 years. No humans have been there except for him.
So it actually takes place in the same universe as Fairy Tail.
Yep.
Just it starts on a different planet. So this was taking place. I believe it's in the future from where. Yeah, it's definitely in the future from where Fairy Tail had taken place. But it's actually in that same universe.
Oh yeah, and they definitely use some of the same characters in the backgrounds. You see Natsu.
Oh yeah,
from time to time.
No, it's true. There's a lot of really great Easter eggs if you like Fairy Tail.
Anyway. But he's a great character. He's really cool, like the power that he has.
Yeah.
He uses gravity.
Yeah.
And he utilizes it in really interesting ways. How he can like go really fast because he essentially just like jumps up and then tilts the gravity, so he just shoots that way like he's falling. And then he'll put like power behind it and everything. But his goal, essentially, or he has a couple goals. But one of his main goals when he was leaving the planet is he wants to make 100 friends.
Yep.
He just wants to make friends.
Just wants to make friends. That's a great goal.
And he wants to make people smile and happy and do that. And then he wants to find the mother, which is essentially like the goal of, it's like becoming the Pirate King or becoming Hokage.
It's a sort of meeting the the grand creator of everything that they sort of perceive in this show.
That he has a weird memory of seeing her before.
Right. And everyone's like, you've never seen her. No one's ever seen her.
And makes fun of him and everything for it. But he's just a great character, and he really cares about his friends. And one thing that really shocked me about that anime was, so like most of the time it's pretty like fun, lighthearted, goofy, but there's points that it deals with some really like heavy topics.
For sure.
And there's some points that are just like really sad, like when was it Valkyrie? Was that her name? Like when you find out about her, like that part's rough. But it's really good, and it's one season so far. They're getting a second season, and it's a Netflix one.
Yeah.
But I highly recommend Eden Zero now, and he's a great character.
Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people, in the anime community have kind of cooled off on Fairy Tail because it was really popular for a long time, and then it seems to have kind of gone the other way and people stopped liking it for some reason.
Yeah.
But I really like Fairy Tail and that universe, and the guy that has created it has like a lot of like common themes throughout.
Yeah, he does.
Throughout this one, throughout the Fairy Tail, and then throughout apparently some of the other series he's put together as well.
Okay.
So I want to check some more of his work out as well.
For sure, yeah, they're fun animes for sure.
Yeah, if anybody who hasn't seen Eden Zero, I definitely would recommend it.
Yep.
Netflix, honestly, just killing it with animes, man.
For the most part, they kind of dropped the ball on the Seven Deadly Sins because it was really good, and then
so I've only seen up to season I think 2 of Seven Deadly Sins.
Yeah, they switched like director and it got weird.
Okay, yeah, I mean I'll trust you on that because I haven't seen it. So.
Yeah.
Number 6 is a character that I'm not personally super attached to, but I have seen a lot of the anime, and I feel like it would be in poor taste not to have it represented on this list, and that is Sailor Moon. I think Sailor Moon, being an anime, potentially targeted at girls, still largely plays out like an anime that is an isekai.
Yeah.
And it kind of helps to bring women into the storyline style of an isekai.
Shonen.
Of a shonen, yes, I apologize. Of a shonen.
The last one we did was easy.
Yeah. So it really brings it into girls into the idea of how a shonen runs, and gives them a little piece of that type of anime.
Yeah.
And so I think not to represent them on this list would have been, a misrepresentation of how impactful they are to the greater anime community.
For sure. I've never seen an episode of Sailor Moon.
Yeah.
But I know it's very popular.
It takes a little while to get into it, but I actually have enjoyed quite a few. I've watched a couple seasons of it.
Older or newer?
So there's one on Netflix called Sailor Moon Crystal. And that's essentially the Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood of Sailor Moon, where they kind of take out a lot of the things that ended up in the original series that didn't matter, and kind of cut those things out and it present it to you in a more like streamlined way. It actually kind of looked a little funky at first because she kind of becomes Sailor Moon rather quickly in Sailor Moon Crystal. And just it's one of those like Power Ranger type things where like you have a lot of power and she's just like cool, and then just like the whole thing goes.
Yeah.
There's no like existential like what I'm supposed to save the world right now, like
fair.
This is complete quick acceptance, but I do really like it, and I think it would have been in poor taste not to represent it here.
That's fair. No, that's great.
What do you got for number 5?
Number 5. So number 5, I have Tanjiro Kamado from Demon Slayer. Also another newer anime. I've been enjoying a lot of the newer ones recently just because like I can actually like get caught up.
Well, and I also think that dubs have come a long way in the last couple of years.
Yeah. So
like newer shows that have dub, you can watch them in dub and they're really good still.
Yes. Which some people will tell us that we're wrong for watching them in dub.
Yeah.
But I like to do other things when I'm.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not watching TV to read. I'll read a manga, which I actually do read quite a bit of manga. I'll read a manga if I want to read.
Well, and I've definitely watched. There's some animes like Naruto. Sure. I had to watch.
As previously discussed, we can't stand voice.
Yeah, and sometimes it just makes more sense to me. Like if all the characters look like they'd be speaking Japanese, that might sound weird, but to me, it makes more sense in my head. But if they look like they might be speaking English, then it makes sense for them to just be doing that, and then it's just easier to enjoy.
So I've seen some of Demon Slayer.
Yes.
Is this the main character that we're talking about?
Yeah, it's the main character. He's a really neat character because he's essentially just a brother. Like he's the oldest brother in his family, and he provides for everybody. He just like has his mother and then his brothers and sisters, and he goes out in the forest and or like goes to town. I think that's what we went to town. And then when he was coming back, somebody basically just has him stay at the house because it was getting too late, and the stories of the demons in the woods that he never believed. But when he gets back home the next day, his family was killed by demons. And his sister gets turned into a demon. And somebody tries to kill her, like a demon slayer essentially tries to kill her. And then they realize he protects her, and she doesn't try to attack him and kind of protects him, her brother. And which prevents the demon slayer decides to not kill her, and basically is like, if you want to protect her, you'd have to become a demon slayer and all this stuff. And he basically becomes a demon slayer to try to find a cure for his sister and help her. And he cares so much. And like he starts off pretty weak and everything, but he's just trying, and he's just so like noble and true to his family, and he's just a great character. It's a great anime.
It's arguably the third, I would say, most popular anime, at least in America right now. There's a lot of Demon Slayer. You know, you can go pretty much anywhere, and there's going to be some merch out there.
I've been seeing that one compared, like Jujutsu Kaisen to Bleach, as it's actually to One Piece.
Yeah.
Demon Slayer is. Very good. The art style is really cool. The way their like art is like a breathing style essentially. And they kind of have like an element to it, but like I almost like the way they do it, like I don't know if that's actually there or if it's just kind of like showing like the style of it more than anything, if that makes any sense at all. Like when he has the waves come out, like it's more just like it's like he's sweeping a wave through.
More flowing.
Yeah.
More like a you know, as if he were like sort of water bending, like a flow to it.
Yeah. And it's not like, I don't think there's actually any water there. It just seems like it's just kind of show it, which is the stylized kind of thing, which I just thought was really cool. I really enjoyed it. The art style is great. Can't ever remember the character's name, but the guy with the boar head is hilarious, and he's just great. You didn't get to him yet because he comes in like halfway through the season, but he's wonderful.
I think I've seen him on like some shirts and things like that.
I'm sure you've seen. I saw him on like Gifts with Sound and stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
He's ridiculous.
Yeah, Demon Slayer is definitely one that is very popular. Very popular right now.
And for good reason. Yeah, good.
So my number 5, it's Ash Ketchum. Originally, when this was the top 5, I put him at the bottom because you know, a lot of people have their various issues with Ash. But
he's the worst Pokemon trainer ever.
He is the worst Pokemon trainer ever. But he actually does get good in some seasons.
Yeah.
I think the X and Y anime, the reason that's actually my favorite game is because that anime is just so good. And he actually like competently understands how typings work in that series.
It's a fire Pokemon. Bulbasaur, go.
Yeah. But you know what? He was never afraid to make a decision and go with it.
Yeah. No, and I'll give you, like, he truly cares about his Pokemon, which is great, and which is what you should see in an anime.
About animal fighting?
About animal fighting. Yes. When you're playing the game, you're like, I don't care about these. You like fight for me, like Pokemon.
Yeah.
But like in the show, it's good that he actually truly cares about his Pokemon and they're his friends.
And I do think there are very few relationships in any of anime that are represented like his relationship to Pikachu is.
Yeah.
Having that one animal or that one companion that is just always there and that you care for really, really deeply. And at the end of the day, I actually think Pikachu was kind of the right choice for that too, because that wasn't always supposed to be Pikachu, right?
Who was it supposed to be?
Clefairy.
Interesting.
Yeah. Then they originally tested Clefairy to be his main Pokemon, and then they realized that it would basically just attract girls and not be as popular for boys. And the reason Pikachu was chosen is because he's yellow, so it's like as gender neutral as possible, as to appeal to both genders.
Yeah.
But Ash, kind of like like I said with Brock, has grown up with us over time, or not grown up. He's actually literally given up his adulthood to stay a kid for generations of kids.
Yeah.
And so you look at it in that meta fashion, he really is one of the greatest shonen anime characters ever created, because he does appeal to the young kids every single generation. Really the Ash Ketchum that we had is the same Ash Ketchum that Ronan has.
Yeah.
That my son has.
Yeah.
And so I think I put him at number 5 originally because we had a top 5 list. Because there's certainly better representations of that genre. But I think he's definitely one of the most iconic. I mean, he's right there with Goku.
Yeah.
All right. What do you have for number 4, sir?
For number 4, I have Gon Freaks from Hunter x Hunter.
Yep. This is one I'm just barely getting into, so I have some foreknowledge of it.
And I will try to not spoil it for you since you're actually actively watching it. So Hunter x Hunter is a show about people who get hunter licenses, which isn't just, going out and killing animals.
It's essentially like an adventurer's license.
Yeah, that's probably the better way to put it, because there's all different kinds. There's gourmet hunters.
Yeah, the gourmet hunters are the best. Like in during the exam, the gourmet hunters are some of the best.
Well, like there's assassins, and there's like magical creatures hunters, and there's like all kinds of different things.
You're essentially joining an adventurer's guild when you become a hunter.
Yeah.
It's not defined for you exactly what you need to do, but you're basically given the responsibility of going out and doing something larger than yourself.
Yeah. It gives you a hunter's license, which kind of in a way makes you almost like CIA. You can kind of get into whatever and you kind of do whatever.
It's like being an adventurer in D&D.
Yeah.
You kind of can get away with a lot more things than someone who hasn't sort of had that designation can.
Yeah. And Gon's motivation is kind of sad compared
it's really sad.
To a lot. So his father left when he was very young, and to be a hunter. And Gon basically decides that he wants to go be a hunter to find out why his dad thought it was cooler than being with him.
That's arguably one of the darkest things I've ever heard in any anime ever. Like, is this just and he's so like when he says it the first couple times he says it in the anime, and maybe this changes over time. But as to where I am, he's really positive about that.
He is, and that's part of why he's on my list. He's so positive. Like, he has such a good outlook on things, and he tries to do things in the best way possible. Like most of the characters on this list, to be fair.
Right. That's why they're heroes,
Yeah, he's a real hero, and he comes up with some really like interesting strategies on ways to do things. And one thing that kind of helped me put him on this list is his relationship with his best friend in the show, which is Killua, who was raised to be like the perfect assassin from the greatest assassin family of like all time. And he's literally like his family calls him Kill. Right. Like his name is Killua because he's a killer. And he's insanely strong and powerful, and like he's the cool kid kind of thing. But their relationship, the way it progresses, is just so interesting because Gon decides that he's his friend and will stop at nothing to like make sure that they're friends. And Kill ends up like he's so confident at first, but that kind of falters after a while, and then it kind of becomes more like he enjoys the outlook of Gon so much that he wants nothing more than to make sure that Gon succeeds.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's what he ends up wanting more than anything, is that everything works out for Gon because he is so positive and he is so great with people when he meets them. And one thing that was great with this anime that's a little different is there's not much of a core group because they kind of go in and out.
Yeah.
And wherever he is in his story, he makes new friends. Mm-hmm. And other than Killua, like they are always kind of together, but he can just kind of make friends with anybody.
Yeah, he's always really happy-go-lucky and you know, just a really good, positive person, and so people kind of are drawn to that. Mm-hmm. What other character could make a fishing rod seem like a weapon, you know?
And he uses that at first, but he stops using it after a while. He uses it just because he knows how to use it so well.
Right, exactly, yeah. And he, you know, that's kind of like his iconic weapon. Mm-hmm. It's just because he always has that fishing rod with him. And
yeah, it ends up more being just his fist after that. But,
yeah.
But yeah, that's why he's my number 4. What's your number 4?
Number 4 is Lucy from Fairy Tail.
Okay.
I really like Lucy. I think she gets represented.
Do you love Lucy?
I do love Lucy. She gets represented in Fairy Tail more effectively than a lot of other women do in anime. Because she's actually kind of the main character because she's your window into the show.
Yeah.
Mostly what I love about her is her magic style. I love like the keys and the summoning of monsters, you know, that kind of thing.
It's just funny because she's actually my least favorite.
Yeah. Yeah, I like her a lot, and I like that. You know, she's always. Again, it's kind of my theme is that she's not always the best at, you know, trying to save the world, but she always wants to try. Mm-hmm. You know, where a lot of the other characters, especially in Fairy Tail, it comes like really sort of easily and or naturally to them. Mm-hmm. She really has to fight against her own sort of more timid nature to do some of the things that she does. Yeah. And I just love the idea of like opening the keys to other universes and being able to bring someone through to help you. And I like that the whole Zodiac theme is really cool. And some of the Zodiac things are really interesting and not what you would expect from their Zodiac signs.
For sure.
I always love the clock. She summons the clock guy.
Okay.
He's always really fun.
She uses him for the weirdest thing.
I know, yeah. Like carrying her through things and
she just climbs in him.
Yeah.
That's all she really uses him for.
Yeah. No, I think she's a really good character, specifically because being a hero doesn't necessarily come as naturally to her. Yeah. And that's a good character to see in a main group of heroes in this type of show because it's kind of uncommon to be someone who goes against their nature to save the world.
Yeah.
Well, we'll go ahead and move on. What do you got for number 3?
Yeah, number 3. So this one's gonna shock you a little bit, but it's not higher. But I know it's probably your number 1. Mm-hmm. So Izuku Midoriya from My Hero Academia.
Yeah.
So he's my number 3 because he's honestly one of my favorite anime protagonists. To be fair, he's such a hero. Like he's a character that I've literally jumped out of my chair and gone, yeah, because he's such that underdog story because he's the rag from rags to riches kind of scenario. Like he's in a world where 90% of people have powers and he doesn't. And he was so excited to be a hero and he wanted to be like All Might, his favorite hero, the number 1 hero in the world. And then he finds out he doesn't have a power and it breaks his heart completely. But then he meets his hero and he ends up being an amazing person and gives him his power. And then he'll do anything to protect people.
Mm-hmm.
Like he wants to make sure that everyone's safe and everybody has their chance. And
he wants to make sure he saves the world with a smile on his face.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
He always wants to smile.
Yeah. We'll talk about Midori a little bit later on because you may or may not be right about where he is on my list. Right. So we'll go ahead and go to my number 3. It's an anime that you've watched a little bit of, and it's Yo Asakura from Shaman King.
Okay. Yeah.
I really like Yo because he is a positive character in a little bit of a different way than the other people we've talked about on this list, in that he just is never fazed by anything.
He's not
like he's not ever like overtly positive. Like, hey, we're gonna save the world. Good job, guys. But he's never like super scared that the world's gonna end either.
Mm-hmm.
He's always just like, oh, okay, we're gonna fucking do this. You know. Yeah. He's determined, and he never lets anything change his goal.
Yeah, which his goal is interesting because it sounds so lame, but then when he talks about it and explains why, like it's actually pretty honorable. Yeah,
no, he's a really honorable character. I think in a show that where a lot of people have different motivations than being a hero necessarily. So essentially, he wants to become the Shaman King, which is basically shamans are like a sort of portal between the world of the dead and the world of the living. And they sort of connect the two, and they will sometimes bond with certain ghosts to help them, achieve whatever it is they couldn't do, things like that. His main ghost is a samurai who kind of was forced to kill a lot of people and was given a very bad rep because of it, and regretted a lot of things in his life, including he felt betrayed by one of his friends who was supposed to make him like this masterwork sword. Mm-hmm. So they resolved that really early. Yeah, he just wants people to be able to live life the way that they want to, without having to struggle.
Yeah,
he wants people to be able to just enjoy themselves.
Yeah, and
who doesn't want that? Like, almost in my daily existence, the one thing I would really like is just to not have to struggle for anything. And I think that's a very common thing for most people.
Yeah. For sure.
He wants to be able to just chill, and who doesn't?
Yeah.
He thinks if he becomes the Shaman King, not only him, but he can help other people to just chill out, enjoy themselves.
For sure.
And that is an amazing goal.
Yeah, that's great.
I also just really like Shaman King's fighting style in the show is really cool.
Yeah,
very bright, colorful, giant. Anyway, if you have a chance to check out Shaman King, I would also recommend that one a lot. What do you got for number 2?
So number 2 would have been Travis's number 1 if he was here, which is also part why it isn't quite mine. So it is Monkey D. Luffy. This is actually the only anime that made it twice on my list. One Piece. Monkey D. Luffy is the captain of the Straw Hats. And his goal is to be king of the pirates.
Yep. Because everybody in most of the shows wants to be some sort of king.
Essentially. But he's such a great character because he's just so lovable and just fun going. But like, God, if you mess with one of his like friends, he will fuck you up. And he's so like respectful in it too. Like he'll wait, and like there's 2 of the best arcs in my opinion are when the female members of the Straw Hats are dealing with something, and they finally, each of them in their separate arcs finally ask him for help. That's when he gets the most serious, and he goes in and kicks some ass.
Speaking of being able to effectively wield things that are long and floppy,
yeah, so
that's his entire body.
Yep. Floppy. So in One Piece, if you haven't seen it, there are things, the devil fruits, which are a special kind of fruit that there's apparently only one of each type. That if you eat it, it gives you a power, and it can be like anything. It's a very odd looking anime, which I think has put a lot of people off from watching it. Just like how colorful and weird it can kind of be.
It definitely can get that way sometimes.
And some of the powers are just really weird.
Mm.
But his is arguably not that strong of one, but he utilizes it so well, and just the way he is. His is the gum fruit, and it makes him a rubber man.
Yeah, so he's very bouncy, stretchy.
He's Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, he's Mr. Fantastic, yeah.
But not nearly as smart. He's
no. He's pretty dumb.
But like, I remember the first time I watched that, I'm like, I'll give it a try. The first episode, I was hooked because the first thing that happened is there's a pirate ship and there's this annoying like little kid, and he's like moving stuff around, and Luffy pops out of a barrel. Like, he just woke up out of a barrel, like stowaway on the ship, and he starts talking to the kid, and the kid lies to him, and then is cowardly. And Luffy looks at him and he goes, "You're a liar and a coward? I hate people like you." And he just starts laughing. And he's just great. And his motivation at the beginning, he's like, I need to get a ship. I need to get like a swordsman. I need to get a bard. That was one of the first things he wanted. And I need to get a doctor and a cook. And he just, when he meets people, like if he decides they're on the crew, he tells them that they're on the crew.
They're coming with me.
And they have no choice. They're just kind of like, he convinces them through his actions because he's just such a good guy and such a good hero. And he convinces a pirate hunter to be a pirate with him. And some of the things he does, like, it's so, one thing that I love with it that they really do is they're pirates, but they're good people. But a lot of times when he's leaving a place, somebody needs to be blamed for something. So he takes that blame, even if it had nothing to do with him,
right?
So that they can continue their lives and prosper in different ways. And he's totally fine being an outlaw. He loves getting his money up there, like his bounty.
He's idolized pirates, which are, by their definition, sort of outlaws. Yeah. And so I don't think he perceives that as necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah.
All right.
What's your number 2?
Yeah. So my number 2 is a character represented in 2 of the animes that we've already discussed here, and then is the little blue cat Happy.
Yeah.
I actually absolutely love Happy. He is, for anybody who doesn't know, he is represented in both Fairy Tail and Eden Zero. And the way that they actually bring him into Eden Zero is kind of interesting.
Yeah, he's a robot.
Yeah. So he's a robot with the personality of the character from Fairy Tail.
Oh, is it that person?
Yeah. So that's why they're the exact same. And from my understanding is that the director or the creator of those shows actually has a version of Happy in all of his shows,
which I think some people would think is not necessarily a good thing, but it works for him.
I love Happy. I think he's so funny, and I love how he's always almost talking crap to pretty much everybody he hangs out with. Like he really calls a lot of the main characters kind of on their crap a lot of the time.
Oh, he's a cat. So.
Yeah. He's very much like a cat in that way. He very much like, well, if he feels like you're doing something wrong, he will tell you. I also just love his sort of very anime style obsession with food. Yeah, that's like such an old anime trope that he kind of carries on, and I just love that so much. It's good. Food's great. It's honestly one of the best motivators of life. It's just to get the food. I like characters with really simple motivations.
Luffy loves food.
Yeah, food is a fucking great motivator for people, and I just love this like tiny blue cat that's always willing to call you on your shit and eat a lot of food.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and get into our number 1.
Number 1. So I'm going into a darker one here. So Edward Elric is my number 1. He is from Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. I'm mainly talking about Brotherhood here with him. Essentially, the end of Brotherhood is what helped him elevate to number 1 on my list. So if you don't know what I'm meaning there, so Full Metal Alchemist came out, I guess, when they were still writing the manga for it, and so they just kind of went their own way, and it had kind of a weird movie ending that I just never sat right with me. And then when I watched Brotherhood later, it had an amazing ending, very good anime. So Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is about a world with essentially a magic in it that's called alchemy. And how it works is it works off of the fundamental. I can't say it right now.
It's almost like we've been talking for a while.
Yeah, the principles of alchemy, where you
Right.
can turn something into something else, but it's on a much broader scale.
It always requires a sacrifice. It always
Yes.
requires something. You can't create something from nothing.
Yeah, it's the law of equivalent exchange. You have to
Right.
give up something to get something else. And there are certain taboos in the world, and the main taboo is you can't do human alchemy, which essentially is you can't bring somebody back from the dead.
No necromancy.
Yes, it doesn't work, even though humans, technically, the ingredients you would need are very basic, but it just doesn't work. And the two main characters, Edward and Alphonse, are brothers, and their father left when they were little, and their mother dies, and they were learning alchemy at a very young age and were very bright. And their mother died, and they decided to try to bring her back. In doing so, they essentially made this monster of their mom that then died immediately after. And Alphonse lost his entire body, died essentially. And Edward lost his, I think it was his
right arm.
I think it was his leg. And then he gave his arm to put his brother's soul into a suit of armor to keep him essentially alive. And his motivation is, so he joins the State Alchemists, which is this symbol here, because I love that anime.
Nerd.
Yep. He joins the State Alchemists to essentially bring his brother back. He also wants to get his arm and his leg back, but he has auto mail that works. He mainly cares about getting his brother back, and that is his entire motivation. It's very dark anime, and it's hard for people to watch, including you. But part of why he made this list, and this is going to be a big spoiler for you, so I'm sorry.
Sure.
And spoiler if you haven't finished it, sorry.
It's been out a pretty long time.
It's been out for a long time. I absolutely loved the way that he succeeded in the end. And it seems when I say it, it's going to be like, well, that makes perfect sense. But you don't really think of it. So when you do that taboo, you see the secrets to everything. And you open this door, and there's this creepy being that's essentially just like a blank slate that's talking to him. And he figures out at the end, to get everything back, he has to give up his alchemy. So everything that he worked for his whole life, and the thing that he succeeded at and he was the best at, he was one of the best alchemists of all time, he gave away that power so he could never do alchemy again. And he got his brother back, and he got his arm and leg back. And he defeated the big bad of the whole thing. And it had a very just good ending to it. And it's honestly one of the best animes of all time. Most people will tell you that. Yeah. If they can get past the like 6th episode where the dad turns his daughter
the
in.
Chimera or whatever.
Yeah, the Chimera episode. That's really hard to watch.
Yeah, it's a very hard episode to watch.
Especially when you had just had a son, and I recommended that.
Yeah, that's why I haven't gone back to that one yet. All right, so my number one is one we've already talked about a little bit, and of course it's Suzuka Midoriya. I think Midoriya is the quintessential hero. He's everything that everyone else on this list attempts to be.
Okay.
Like he's the most pure of heart.
Yeah.
He's really great at what he does. He is always there to help people, always overcomes adversity. Like he has, if you were to build a anime hero from the ground up, it would look like Izuku Midoriya. I think he's very much succeeded already in the anime in becoming All Might in that way. You know, he is always there to help people. He's always at least shows that happy face to other people, even sometimes when I think he's not feeling it. Mm-hmm. You know, he wants to be that symbol of hope, that that All Might or that Superman character, if you will. Mm-hmm. And we get to see that entire evolution happen, before our eyes. And to me, he is the quintessential hero that I think all of the other people on these lists sort of want to be.
Yeah.
And some of them maybe have a little bit more trials and tribulations than he does in that, because he just is so focused on being a good person.
Yeah. And another thing that I love about him so much is I love the fact that just how much he pays attention to everybody. He respects everybody, mm-hmm. and he pays attention to them, and he takes notes, and he like studies them to make himself stronger as well. Mm-hmm. And it's not like in a malicious way. It's not so that he can take them down.
It's so that he can be better.
It's so that he can personally be better.
Yeah.
He learns from the things that other people are best at.
Mm-hmm. And we also get to see him throughout the show becoming more.
That's why Bakugo gets so pissed at him.
We also get to see him in the show becoming less about being All Might and more about being the best version of himself. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something we can all take away a little bit from really just anime in general, is that you are at your best when you're trying to just be the best version of yourself and no one else.
For sure.
And I love how All for One has kind of, or One for All, has kind of become something of his own that is completely entirely separate from All Might. You know, the people who don't know that he got his power from All Might would not even connect the two at this point.
Yeah.
Because the way that he uses it is 100% different.
Yeah. They all know that he respects All Might, and he names some of his moves like All Might did.
Okay, an homage, yeah.
But All Might's also his instructor.
Right. But they're entirely different in terms of the way that they use the ability.
Yes.
He's a lot more agile and a lot more about speed and agility.
And All Might's more just brute strength.
Yeah, just pure brute strength. It's essentially like a Superman to Spider-Man kind of contrast.
Yeah.
It is pretty funny though. His newer powers, Black Whip, do tend to mimic a lot of like what Spider-Man would do.
Yeah. He is very much a Spider-Man. And Spider-Man's a great character too.
Sure,
He's such
absolutely.
a hero. So
absolutely.
That's
that's
responsibility.
Kind of well like in that sense too.
Yep.
So in my opinion, Izuku Midoriya deserves to be at the top of this list because he's the quintessential shonen and or anime hero.
Yeah. So speaking of that, now we can put our official nerdy niche top 10 anime protagonists.
Yep. So we'll go ahead and just count our top 10 real quick. I'll start with Sailor Moon.
Okay.
So as I just said, Sailor Moon is leaning a little bit more towards girls, but I think it's the window for shonen anime from a girl's perspective. Mm-hmm. And that's always something that's really great to represent and something that we should see more often, I think, than we do. And it's as iconic as Dragon Ball Z is. There's really no other way to put it. You know, you see that right along with those really top level animes. And it's actually a very fun show. So give us number 9.
Yeah. So number 9 is Nobara Kujizaki from Jujutsu Kaisen. Also because the main character is a male in that, but the fans and everybody very much picked up very quickly that the best characters in that anime are the female leads, because they actually have the most depth in character, which is very important and which they need to start doing more of in animes, which that's an anime that's going to be out there for a long time now, I think. And I think that's a very important thing and needed to be on our list. Mm-hmm. Sorry, I didn't make it higher on the list.
So our number 8, go ahead and let you do him as well. So and I'll do number 7.
So Shiki, Granbell, just all around friend. He wants to make 100 friends. He has a cool gravity power, which I've always liked gravity powers too. They're just kind of cool.
I agree. Yeah.
And anime is really fun, and it also deals with some darker themes at times. And he cares about his friends, and at the second you're his friend, you're always his friend, and he's always going to protect you and do that, which is just great.
So our number 7 is the Dragon Ball representation, which I think a lot of people hope that we had Goku or something higher on the list, but I think we're going to go ahead here in the Nerd Nation. We're going to give Krillin his due.
Yes.
I think Krillin is a great character who's been around since day one, basically, of Dragon Ball, the entire series. It is a character who, despite being drastically underpowered compared to his peers, will never back down. He's a great representation of a friend, a great representation of a father, and a truly unique character in anime history that I think most people that have probably even never seen Dragon Ball Z would still recognize. Let's go through number 6.
Okay. Number 6 is just a great brother. Tanjiro Kamado from Demon Slayer. He wants to help his sister, and he'll do anything in his power to get her to not be a demon anymore and not have to kill her. And he just means well, and he's just hard-headed in that, and literally hard-headed, like he just has a hard head. And just a great character. You just really root for him, and everybody kind of does.
So at number 5, I had to get this one in here. Ash Ketchum. I think he is, the iconic relevance to me weighs a lot on my decisions in terms of this list. And along with Goku and Sailor Moon, I don't think there's really anybody higher on that list than Ash Ketchum. He's been around for 20 plus years. He's given up his entire adult life to grow up continually with a new generation of kids.
Yeah.
And nothing more famous really than that, just that face of Ash Ketchum.
Yeah. I think this one we should both kind of do.
Yeah. So you can go ahead and
so this one is that happy kid that just wants to know why his dad doesn't want to hang out with him. Gon Freaks.
Yeah. It's I really like a lot of this anime. I've only seen the end of the first season, but he's just such a fun character and has a very unique look.
Yeah, and that positivity just drives everybody around him, including his best friend that was literally raised to be a murderous assassin, that he just wants to be able to have that outlook that somebody can have with the hardships that they've seen, that he can always stay positive. It's amazing.
And he's literally able to take people a lot of the times throughout the show that are otherwise kind of irredeemable or terrible and kind of change their perspective on the world a little bit.
Yeah. And he can work with some really cruel people if he needs to.
And never let it change him.
Yep.
Yeah.
He's a strong personality.
Number 3.
Another very strong personality, Edward Elric. And he also is a very strong personality.
Yes.
Great character, the ultimate brother. He very, very smart person, does everything in his power to make sure that the mistake he made at a young age changes back, and he makes a very grown-up decision later in life that ends up fixing everything, even though it takes away the thing that he is literally best at.
And that's the show makes him make a lot of decisions, I think, before a person his age should have had to.
Yeah, it really shows him grow, because he's very just at first he's just like a hot-headed little kid, but he makes some really grown-up decisions, and it's in some really hard times. Great anime. Great character.
In terms of pop culture, I think the Full Metal Alchemist, along with One Piece we'll talk about in a minute, are kind of just that first step in the door to what maybe is less mainstream anime.
Yeah. It's actually one that's hard to make as the first one to watch because
it gets really dark. Yeah.
Well, it's so hard to. It's so good that it's hard to compare to other ones. So people have actually had issues where that was their first anime that they watched, and then they couldn't find one quite as good.
I definitely don't think it should necessarily be there first, but I do think it should be one of those ones that you watch like once you've really established that you're interested in anime.
Yeah. It really shows you how good an anime can be.
And the same thing applies for our number 2, Luffy D Monkey, and One Piece. It's a show that can be daunting because of how much exists, but it really is one of those shows that, like, when you're stepping in from something like Dragon Ball Z, Sailor Moon, Pokemon into like a more traditional anime style, that's definitely like one of the shows that is there for you.
Yeah, Luffy is just personality. He's just amazing, and he's gonna be the king of the pirates. We all know it. And he's got
a lot of really fun like tactics in the way that he fights, and he's just a very iconic look. That again, a lot of people would be like, I've recognized that from somewhere at the very least.
Yep. And our number 1, Jeremy.
Yep. Our number 1 is Izuku Midoriya, because I would argue that My Hero Academia has taken over the top spot in anime.
Yep, it's the new Naruto.
Yeah, it's the new Naruto, which has no representation on this list, which I think a lot of people will be upset about. But.
Yeah, we were going with the main group, which I would argue with Naruto, it's the side characters and their teachers that are the best characters of that show.
Right.
I still like that show.
Yeah.
I just want to put that out there. That's why they're not on here.
But My Hero is that like has taken that place of like Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, like that anime that just like you walk into any store in the mall and there's probably going to be something with My Hero on it.
It's good.
It's just such a good show. Like even people who don't traditionally like anime of any kind can kind of get into it.
Yeah, Midoriya is just such a fucking hero.
Yeah, it's all just such good characters, and it really helps that he's surrounded by a lot of really good ensemble cast too. He's just the quintessential hero and everything that this list should represent.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, guys. Well,
Travis can fight you on that.
Oh yeah, and he can fight me on that. But that's our list. I know maybe not some of the picks that a lot of anime nerds would pick, but that's what we do here at the Nerdy Niche. We make controversial choices.
Yeah,
and
anime will save the universe.
Anime will save the universe. So we'll go ahead and post this list on our Facebook as well, so that you guys can yell at us there as to whether or not you agree with it. So let us know what you think in the comments, and we'll hopefully get to make another video very soon and get to some more consistent content. Until next time, guys, we hope to hear from you, and keep it nerdy out there.